I'm vengeance.
There's a reason Batman is so enduringly popular. He's more than just a guy who dresses in spandex and beats up criminals, though that is a big selling point. Batman is a globetrotting hero whose adventures and romantic exploits would make James Bond jealous. He's a master detective, and he's a trauma survivor trying to honor his parents' memories in the only way he knows how. Even after so many live-action Batman movies, there hasn't been a single Batman actor to embody all facets of the Dark Knight. But even so, each Batman has brought something unique and important to the role. Let's take a look back at Batman's big screen history and why the perfect Batman has been so elusive. While Batman had appeared in various World War II-era movie serials before, it's safe to say that Adam West's incarnation was the first exposure many fans had to a live-action Caped Crusader. Nowadays, West's Batman is viewed as sort of the odd man out of the franchise, the campy, goofy alternative to the brooding heroes of modern DC movies. Even West himself famously described his Batman as the Bright Knight. But for many younger DC fans who grew up watching West's Batman punch criminals into an onomatopoeia-filled stupor, he didn't come across as a joke. He was just Batman, the guy who wages a one-man, well, two-man, war on crime every day. West's genius was always playing his character completely straight, giving kids a role model to aspire to even as adults laughed at the show's campy excess. And unlike most of his successors, West's Batman never resorted to using lethal force. That alone arguably makes this live-action Batman the most faithful to the comics.
Support your police. That's our message.
Well said, Robin. And no better way to end this press conference. Thank you, and good day.
In fact, there's a subtle undercurrent of sadness lurking beneath this Batman's happy-go-lucky exterior. In this candy-colored version of Gotham City, no one is ever seriously injured or killed, and villains like the Joker, Catwoman, and Riddler always return to threaten the city another day. Being Batman is less a crusade and more like a game of dress-up that never ends. It's almost depressing in a way. The 1966 movie illustrates this as well as anything, as we see Wes Bruce tempted by his infatuation with Miss Kitka, only for that romance to be revealed as another supervillain trick. The end of that movie suggests that even this fun-loving Batman just wants the ride to end. It's no secret many DC fans weren't thrilled when Michael Keaton was cast as the lead in Tim Burton's ambitious Batman reboot. At the time, Keaton was largely known for his comedic roles in films like Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice, and though Keaton largely won over skeptical audiences, his Batman was often criticized for being upstaged by more flamboyant performances from the likes of Jack Nicholson and Danny DeVito. However, those complaints tend to sell Keaton's Batman short. While Nicholson's Joker was busy chewing all the scenery production designer Anton Furst could throw at him, Keaton was quietly painting a picture of a Batman barely clinging to sanity. Batman 89 is littered with clues that Keaton's Bruce isn't quite right in the head. He sleeps upside down like a literal bat, he's often lost in thought and memory, barely paying heed when a bullet comes within inches of killing him, and then there's the iconic scene where all of Bruce's trauma and rage bursts forth, hinting at a man nearly as deranged as the Joker himself.
And he had us. Lights out! Now you want to get nuts? Come on! Let's get nuts.
Keaton's Batman is hardly perfect. He's short, not particularly agile, and a little too fond of extreme crime-fighting measures, but as Bruce Wayne still haunted by childhood tragedy and with one foot perpetually in the past, Keaton's performance is second to none. Val Kilmer had the thankless task of stepping into Keaton's Batsuit after the actor followed Tim Burton in departing the third Batman movie. Few would argue Kilmer delivered the definitive Batman performance, though director Joel Schumacher might have. Forever tried to sell fans on the notion of a Bruce Wayne who's lost touch with the reasons for his war on crime, when that war was all that drove him in the previous two movies. But Kilmer's Batman had one advantage over Keaton's. He knew how to make a joke. Batman Forever is a movie that attempts to meld the gothic weirdness of Burton's Gotham with the camp of the 1966 series. Kilmer, an actor who built his reputation as the smoldering, arrogant Iceman in 1986's Top Gun, was just the guy to thread that needle. Watching Batman Forever now, it's surprising to see just how funny this bizarre sequel can be. Kilmer's stoic brand of comedy pays off, whether it's selling ridiculous one-liners.
Can I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?
I'll get drive-through.
Or the way he seems to quietly panic when Nicole Kidman's Dr. Chase Meridian starts putting the moves on him. Kilmer's velvety voice just makes the humor work, plus he succeeds better than most at drawing a firm distinction between his Batman voice and his Bruce Wayne voice. Forever never seems to know whether it's a serious Batman movie or a parody of the Burton movies, and in some ways, that works to Kilmer's advantage. 1997's Batman and Robin will probably always carry a stigma with Batman fans, and not without reason. It's the sequel so critically reviled that it killed the Batman Schumacher series and ended Batman's big screen reign for the better part of a decade. But there's one thing we'll say in this movie's defense. George Clooney is a far better Bruce Wayne than most people give him credit for. Cutting through all the ridiculous scenes of Batman ice skating, wrestling with Bane, or racking up purchases on his Bat credit card, Clooney's Bruce is arguably the most human and relatable we've ever seen from a live-action Caped Crusader. This isn't a movie about Bruce being tormented by his war on crime or haunted by the deaths of his parents. He's motivated by two things here: the desperate attempt to save the life of Alfred, the only father figure he has left, and the need to repair his relationship with Dick Grayson, his adopted brother. This is a Batman who's embraced the family he's built for himself, even as it risks slipping through his fingers. Clooney perfectly embodies this more genial, relatable Batman. Just rewatch his impassioned speech to Chris O'Donnell's Robin in the climax of the film and tell us you're not inspired.
So I'm asking you, friend, partner, brother, will you trust me now?
Also, while the movie may not give Clooney nearly as much chance to shine in costume, he does have the perfect superhero jawline. That has to count for something. Christian Bale is, for now at least, the only actor to star in 3 live-action Batman movies. That allowed Bale to really own the role and develop his incarnation of Bruce Wayne in a way we haven't seen before or since. This may not be the perfect Batman, especially for anyone who craves a little humor from their Caped Crusader, but it is the most well-rounded and fully realized version we've gotten to date. Bale's Batman is a character who fits right in alongside the protagonists of Christopher Nolan's other blockbuster films. He's a man consumed by his life's work to the point where it nearly destroys him and drives away those closest to him. Bale, an actor famous for the physical extremes he undergoes to prepare for his roles, was the ideal choice to play this obsessive, reclusive Batman. The fact that Bale appears in 3 different movies set during the beginning, the peak, and the twilight of the Dark Knight's career gives us a full sense of Batman's story and the toll his war on crime takes. The Dark Knight Rises may be the most divisive film in the trilogy, but it's also the one that really hammers home how much Bale's Bruce has fought and bled and lost for his city.
You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything.
Not everything. Not yet.
Thankfully, most of Nolan's heroes are rewarded for their obsession in the end, and Bale's Batman is no different. After sacrificing his reputation, his fortune, and nearly his life in service of Gotham, Bruce is rewarded with a happy ending. Batman is someone else's burden now. Batman has a number of impressive accomplishments on his resume, not the least of which being that he's trained under some of the greatest martial artists on the planet. But for various reasons, whether it's broadcast TV standards or restrictive rubber suits, we never see a Batman who truly moves and fights like the one in the comics. That is, at least until Ben Affleck's Dark Knight came onto the scene in 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Affleck's Batman is one heavily inspired by the version seen in Frank Miller's graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns, a hulking, middle-aged Bruce Wayne approaching his war on crime with a new level of ferocity. This is a Batman who looks and moves like a comic book come to life. Though if this iconic fight scene is any indication, it's clear Affleck and director Zack Snyder were inspired by the Arkham video games as much as the comics. The DCEU movies paint Batman as an almost supernatural force of nature, which helps sell the idea that this aging Bruce Wayne could still hold his own against the superpowered members of the Justice League. But what makes Affleck's Batman really work is how that larger-than-life quality is balanced out by a sense of world weariness. Particularly in 2017's Justice League, we see signs that Bruce is entering the Roger Murtaugh phase of his career.
I'm too old for this.
As we've seen from films like Gone Girl, Affleck has a knack for playing smug, overconfident jerks who would rather be anywhere but here. That's basically Affleck's Bruce Wayne in a nutshell. Affleck gives us a version of Batman who's still the bane of criminal scum everywhere, even if his sense of compassion and his love for the job died around the same time as his last sidekick. We may have yet to see the ideal representation of Batman on the big screen, but every incarnation of the Caped Crusader has something to offer. Which actor most embodied Batman to you? How do you think Robert Pattinson's version of The Dark Knight will compare? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and for everything Batman, be sure to like and subscribe to IGN wherever you watch.